That meeting behind me at the Élysée Palace, chaired by French President Emmanuel Macron, still going on. Started at about 4:15, about 2 hours ago. Now the idea is to get around the table all the major actors involved in fighting against the coronavirus outbreak. So there's scientists, researchers from laboratories, and also representatives of big pharmaceutical companies that are involved. Now they're here to advise the government on what next steps they're going to take. So what could those next steps be? Well, one of those could be to raise the government's action plan from level 2 to level 3. That action plan first created back in 2009, revised again in 2011. At the moment, as I said, it's on level 2. That means that the government's focus has been so far on containing the virus. If it goes to level 3, that means the government will switch its efforts from containment to treating people who have already been infected, in particular vulnerable people such as the elderly and people who have, for example, weak immune systems. Another thing the government may do is call in extra medical personnel to help fight the virus. Also, if it gets to level 3, that means that people with light symptoms would be effectively turned away from hospitals. That's so the government and hospital staff can concentrate their resources on treating people most at threat from the virus.
See, for instance, the entire school system shut down in neighboring Italy. What's the word on what level 3 would mean for France more broadly? We're told that the Interior Minister says for now, municipal elections, which are just around the corner, they're still on.
Yeah, that's right. The government has insisted that there is no reason to panic. They say that, for example, municipal elections that are just around the corner, as you mentioned, they will continue. However, if the government does go to level 3, that gives the government a lot more powers to, for example, restrict large public gatherings. It also means that it could effectively close down more and more schools. We've already seen about 120 schools closed across France, particularly in the hardest hit areas by the virus. That at the moment, that's in Val d'Oise, just north of Paris. We've also seen a lot of cases in Morbihan, which is in Brittany, also in Upper Savoie, which is near the Swiss border. So what the government could do here is effectively use those powers that level 3 gives it to restrict public gatherings, and but in particular the focus, as I mentioned before, the focus really being on treating people with the virus, because once you get to level 3, the government is basically saying that the virus has now reached such a large portion of the population that the priority needs to be on treating people with it and not on containing it, as the focus has been up until now.
Andrew, you mentioned l'Oise, which is one of those epicenters. There, points north and east, is where we're getting news of new fatalities.
Yeah, that's right. So 2 more fatalities recorded today. That brings the total number of deaths from the virus in France to 6. One of those, as you mentioned, in Val d'Oise, which is just north of Paris. What that means is scientists and doctors they reckon they've been able to trace this death to a large outbreak in that region. Other regions affected, as I mentioned earlier, there, Upper Savoie and Morbihan. The number of cases now in France up to 377. So we'll have to see how the government obviously reacts to that. Of course, in the last week, we've seen a huge jump in the number of cases recorded in France. That's one of the reasons why the government is holding this meeting, but we'll have to wait and see what decision will come out of it.